So welcome back to another deep dive. I'm your host, and today we are unpacking a really comprehensive recap of, well, what are the most jam-packed and honestly hilarious storylines from the beloved sitcom Friends.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a really great one to dig into.
It really is. And we are looking at this detailed summary that captures a huge pivotal moment in the series. I mean, we've got everything from lost passports to shocking college secrets and, some literally life-changing adoption news.
Right, it's all happening at once for these characters.
Exactly. And the mission today is to analyze how this particular storyline really serves as a masterclass in sitcom writing. Specifically, how it flawlessly balances absurd comedy and these hilarious misunderstandings with some profoundly heartfelt life transitions.
Because that's the trick, isn't it? While the comedy definitely gets the laughs, it's the underlying emotional stakes that actually make these episodes so memorable for you, the listener.
Oh, absolutely. Even years later, these stories just still hook us. And I love sharing these fascinating breakdowns with fellow fans because, well, if you look at how engineers design skyscrapers in earthquake zones, there's this really fascinating principle.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with this.
Right. Like, they don't make the buildings completely rigid, because if they did, the first major tremor would just snap the concrete right in half. Instead, they engineer them to sway.
Right, they build in a flexible core.
Yes. So when terrifying tectonic shifts happen, the structure wobbles a bit, but it ultimately remains standing. And when you step away from architecture and look at the mechanics of storytelling,
Especially high-stakes storytelling to end a long-running sitcom.
exactly, you see the exact same structural trick. The writers are using ridiculous comedy to keep the massive emotional weight of the narrative from, snapping the audience in half.
Well, because when a show runs for a decade, you develop a really deep, almost parasocial attachment to the characters. So when you force them to move away or have babies, you are dealing with genuine grief. The writers have to offset that. They have to uh, build in the sway, so to speak.
I love that. Build in the sway. So let's start with segment 1. The recap covers this sequence where everything is changing. Rachel is packing for Paris, Monica and Chandler are waiting on an adoption, and they're secretly buying a house.
The stakes are totally existential.
Yeah, but they don't start with existential dread. They start with a classic sitcom trope. The misunderstanding. It acts as this, smokescreen.
Right, the gang suspects Chandler is having an affair.
Yes, because he's seen getting into a car with this mysterious woman named Nancy, and they immediately jump to infidelity. But the truth is much simpler. Nancy is actually Monica and Chandler's realtor. She's just helping them search for a new home.
Which is such a fascinating choice structurally. The writers are playing with your cognitive load here. They deliberately introduce a soapy, melodramatic trope because our brains already have a script for how to process an affair.
Wait, really? You're saying we, as the audience, we actually want to believe Chandler is cheating on Monica because it's easier to handle?
In the context of television consumption, yeah, actually. An affair is a familiar conflict. There's a villain, a victim, a resolution. It's easily digestible drama.
Huh. That is wild.
But what is not easily digestible is the mundane, creeping anxiety of growing up, leaving the city, getting a mortgage, the bureaucratic nightmare of trying to adopt a child that is real adult terror.
So when the misunderstanding is cleared up
Mm-hmm.
and Nancy's revealed to just be their realtor, the relief we feel makes the heartfelt reality hit so much harder.
Exactly. It's engineered relief. You jump to the worst case scenario, so when it turns out to be something wholesome but still terrifying like buying a family home, the blow is softened. They use the comedy to balance the very real anxiety of impending parenthood.
It's like a magician's sleight of hand.
Yeah.
They make you look over here at this dramatic cheating scandal, so you don't realize they're setting up the reality of buying a house. But, it's funny how they panic over a fake betrayal with Nancy, yet they completely brush off an actual decade-long betrayal that comes to light in the exact same storyline.
Oh, you're talking about the college flashback?
The pile of coats. I mean, this is one of the most brilliant reveals in the show's history.
It really is a classic.
The recap highlights this flashback storyline, where Ross and Chandler are remembering their college days. They made this pact not to date a girl named Missy Goldberg. But then, years later, this massive secret is revealed. Ross discovers that his cherished foundational first kiss with Rachel wasn't actually Rachel at all.
Right, it was Chandler.
It was Chandler, hiding under a pile of coats at a college party. That leaves everyone speechless. But honestly, imagine finding out your most romantic memory was actually a prank orchestrated by your best friend in the dark.
It completely rewrites history.
It does. And if that happened in real life, I'd probably end the friendship, or at least need serious therapy. How does an absurd revelation like Chandler under the coats actually strengthen the bonds between these characters instead of, breaking them apart?
Well, it comes down to how retroactive continuity functions in a purely comedic space. In a serialized drama, a revelation like that destroys trust. It would be a whole season-long arc about betrayal.
Right. Lots of dramatic crying in the rain.
Exactly. But in a sitcom, the rules of reality bend to serve the joke. This scene is the pinnacle of physical and situational comedy. The absurdity of the visual Chandler waiting in the dark under winter coats completely overrides the logical violation of trust.
So the sheer absurdity acts as a shield.
That and their shared history. By this point, their identities were so deeply intertwined. Finding out your best friend was your first kiss proves there is literally no corner of their lives that they haven't influenced. It perversely cements their bond.
Wow. No corner of their lives. That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of absurd truths and, well, physical comedy, we have to talk about what Joey is doing while all this heavy emotional lifting is happening.
Joey's storyline here is a textbook example of narrative counterweight.
Yeah, so Joey gets really upset because he discovers a casting director flat out lied to him about watching his audition tape.
Right, an everyday Hollywood lie.
But his retaliation is amazing. To prove a point, Joey reveals one of the strangest commercials he ever filmed in Japan. And it creates one of the funniest moments in the whole episode.
It's brilliant. Have you ever looked at a steam engine and noticed that little brass valve on top that constantly hisses and spits out steam?
Yeah, like a pressure release valve.
That is Joey's function here. If the entire episode focused solely on the dread of adoption and Rachel leaving, it would become a melodrama. The B storyline, Joey fighting a lie by making himself look as ridiculous as possible with a Japanese lipstick commercial, is the hiss of the steam engine.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it.
And notice the thematic overlap, too. The A stories are about uncovering hidden truths, like the adoption bureaucracy or Chandler's decade-old secret. Joey's story is also about uncovering lies, but he highlights his unique, often ridiculous approach to his career and pride.
He'd rather look ridiculous on his own terms than be quietly disrespected.
Exactly.
So it gives our brains a break, which we definitely need, because then the narrative pivots right back to the imminent, stressful changes threatening the group. Rachel's preparing to move to Paris.
Right, the transatlantic move.
And the friends are struggling emotionally with saying goodbye. They're realizing just how much her presence means to them. But then the stress peaks when Rachel accidentally loses her passport while packing.
It's a brilliant way to externalize internal panic.
I mean, we've all been there, right? The lost passport feels like the universe's or maybe Rachel's own subconscious way of throwing up a roadblock because she's terrified to actually leave.
Psychologists actually refer to this as a form of self-handicapping.
Wait, really? There's a term for it.
Oh, yeah. When the anxiety of a major life transition becomes too acute, our subconscious creates tangible, solvable crises to distract us from the unsolvable ones. Losing a passport is a nightmare, but it's a solvable nightmare.
You can just tear a room apart looking for it.
Right, but you cannot tear a room apart looking for the emotional closure of leaving your chosen family behind. Rachel's situation is grounded in very real, poignant emotional struggle.
Wow. So she's creating a bureaucratic panic to avoid the emotional one. And while she's dealing with that quiet terror, the writers contrast it with the absolute loudest, most farcical panic imaginable over at the house hunt.
Ah, yes, the Janice reveal.
Yes. The house hunting story takes this unexpected turn. Monica and Chandler discover that Janice might become their next-door neighbor.
The human equivalent of nails on a chalkboard.
Exactly. And Chandler is so terrified by the idea that he comes up with this ridiculous dramatic performance to convince Janice not to buy the house. He basically fakes being still in love with her. And it works perfectly. Janice decides to back out of the deal.
It's pure elevated farce.
But let me ask you, this is Chandler's extreme performance. To scare off Janice, just his way of aggressively protecting the one thing he actually can control right now.
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. Think about it. Chandler is completely powerless over the adoption bureaucracy. He is powerless over Rachel moving across the Atlantic. But he can control who lives next door to him, even if it requires an absurd theatrical performance.
It's the skyscraper swing again.
Exactly. The writers beautifully balance the genuine tears of Rachel's goodbye with the laugh-out-loud ridiculousness of Chandler's anti-Janice routine. If the house hunting was treated with quiet realism, the episode would just sink under its own weight.
We need Janice there to remind us the world is still absurd,
Mm-hmm.
which perfectly sets the stage for the big payoff. All these chaotic threads, the house hunting, the goodbyes, the past secrets, they all culminate in the ultimate life-changing climax of the episode.
The resolution of 10 years of character evolution.
Yes. The biggest moment arrives at the end. Monica and Chandler finally meet their adopted babies, and it's the surprise of a lifetime. They are twins, a baby boy and a baby girl.
The clinic didn't know, the mother didn't know.
Right. And they are just overwhelmed with happiness as their dream of becoming parents instantly changes their lives forever. But structurally, they spent the whole episode overwhelmed by just the decisions of adoption, and then bam, double the babies. How does this surprise elevate the entire storyline?
Well, it synthesizes the episode's ultimate message. The twins represent the ultimate reward for the character's growth. These are people who spent the whole episode trying to micromanage their environment, stressing over the realtor, fending off Janice.
I steer the ship.
Right. But a sitcom ends by throwing one last beautiful curveball at you. You cannot control life, you can only adapt to it. And the source material points out that this is exactly why the sitcom remains so beloved. It earns its deeply heartfelt emotions through years of comedic trials.
Because it mirrors the unpredictable, beautiful nature of real life. You meticulously plan for one baby, and biology hands you two.
Exactly. All the anxiety about whether they are ready to be parents just vanishes the second they're holding two babies instead of one. There's no time left for neuroses.
They just have to step up. It's so incredible. This single storyline really just perfectly encapsulates the magic of the show, weaving hilarious misunderstandings with Nancy the realtor, the bizarre past secrets of the pile of coats, the stress of goodbyes and passports, and the monumental joy of the twins. It's all one cohesive experience.
It perfectly balances comedy, friendship, and heartfelt emotions.
It really does. And as our source material reminds us today, if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Friends episode reviews.
Always good to support the creators doing these great recaps.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering question to ponder. We've talked all about these engineered curveballs, but think about your own narrative. If these characters can survive the shock of a first kiss actually being their best friend in a coat, losing a passport right before moving abroad, and suddenly becoming parents to twins, how much of the chaotic, hilarious mess in your own daily life is actually just the setup for your very own surprise of a lifetime?